Cynthia's Garchomp dances through the remaining shreds of my defense, its attack stat boosted to lethal levels after a single swords dance. The screen displays a grim reality in Pokémon Platinum, where my battered team stares down a flawless sweep. Every damage range points to an unavoidable one-hit knockout against my fastest remaining fighters. This is the ultimate checkmate state, a mathematical dead end where speed tiers and base stat totals dictate absolute annihilation. Surviving this turn requires abandoning hope for a miraculous dodge or a missed attack. The numbers are brutally objective, leaving no room for sentimentality when a 13.8% chance to survive is the best the damage calculator can offer. I have to manufacture a safe switch-in window for my Ice-type win condition, but a direct switch means sending my trump card into a guaranteed lethal earthquake. The only mathematical escape route is a calculated pivot sacrifice. In the unforgiving ecosystem of a Nuzlocke, losing a partner is usually a tragic failure of preparation. But in these razor-thin endgame scenarios, death transforms from a penalty into a crucial resource management tool. The tactical necessity of sacrificing team members separates the hopeful amateurs from the hardened veterans. You stop seeing a beloved companion who carried you through 5 gym badges and start seeing a precise block of hit points designed to absorb exactly one fatal blow. I select my bulky water type, a veteran of dozens of battles, knowing full well it will never see the Hall of Fame. The deployment is deliberate, baiting the AI into selecting a predictable, high-damage physical attack based on typed weaknesses. This is the essence of resource trading in high-stakes runs, exchanging a valuable but non-essential piece to guarantee the survival of the one Pokémon capable of securing the championship. The Garchomp strikes with terrifying speed, the ground erupting beneath my chosen martyr. The health bar plummets instantly to 0, the faint animation playing out like a solemn tolling bell across the Sinnoh region. There is no surprise, no sudden gasp of bad luck, only the cold execution of a statistical probability that I authored. The sacrifice clears the field, leaving the opponent locked into its cooldown animation and completely exposed. That single, devastating loss buys the most valuable currency in competitive Pokémon gameplay, a completely free turn. My Ice type enters the arena completely unscathed, bypassing the entry hazard damage and the threat of a predicted strike. The EV spread I meticulously crafted for speed and special attack now has the exact window it needs to launch a definitive 4 times effective blizzard. The math of the sacrifice translates directly into the math of the victory. This brutal calculus extends far beyond the snowy peaks of Mount Coronet and the terrifying might of Cynthia. Across every generation and every region, the endgame forces trainers into these agonizing cornered positions. You can journey back to the Kanto region in FireRed LeafGreen, and the fundamental architecture of the challenge remains identical. The final battles are designed to push your roster to the absolute breaking point, demanding ruthless optimization. Consider the champion battle against Blue, where his Alakazam enters the field radiating psychic dominance. Its speed stat outpaces my entire remaining squad, and its special attack threatens to melt through my defensive walls like paper. We are back in the checkmate state, staring down a psychic barrage that mathematically guarantees a sweeping defeat if I attempt to brute force a solution. The opponent holds all the cards, dictating the pace of the engagement. Breaking Blue's momentum requires another deep dive into the AI targeting algorithms and damage calculation logic. I need to bring in my physical sweeper to exploit Alakazam's fragile physical defense, but bringing it in directly means eating a psychic attack that exceeds its maximum health pool. The solution demands a pivot, a perfectly timed interception that manipulates the AI into targeting a specific resistance or vulnerability. The psychological toll of orchestrating these deaths never truly fades, even when the logic is flawless. You are actively selecting the execution order of your roster, deciding whose journey ends mere steps from the ultimate goal. The empty slot in the party serves as a haunting reminder of the cost of one missed calculation earlier in the run. Every sacrifice is a heavy burden, a permanent scar on the victory screen. I look at my early game flying type, a Pokémon whose utility has severely diminished as the enemy levels skyrocketed. It lacks the raw stats to contribute offensively, making it the optimal candidate for this morbid resource trade. Sending it into the fray is an acknowledgement that its final, greatest contribution to the team is simply dying on command. This is the harsh reality of the pivot sacrifice. The Alakazam unleashes its psychic assault, obliterating the flying type before it can even register an attack command. The screen flashes, the faint cry echoes, and the necessary blood price is paid in full. But the AI's predictable aggression has created the exact opening I engineered, burning its turn on a target of my choosing. The trap is sprung, and the momentum of the battle shifts instantly in my favor. My physical sweeper hits the field with absolute safety, its attack stat primed to shatter the Alakazam's fragile defenses. The risk was entirely managed, the outcome dictated by careful study of base stats and move pools, rather than unpredictable fortune. We rely on community-verified math to guarantee these interactions, eliminating the variance that ends lesser runs. The sweep is secured not by luck, but by the undeniable certainty of a well-executed trade. Yet, the aftermath of these battles leaves a lingering strategic deficit that complicates the rest of the journey. A lost pivot means one less defensive switch in, one less buffer against a random critical hit in the next encounter. The roster shrinks, forcing the surviving members to cover wider defensive gaps and absorb more inherent risk. The cycle of death and training begins again, demanding constant reevaluation of the remaining assets. Rebuilding the strategy with a diminished squad forces intense scrutiny of every remaining EV spread and nature. You have to calculate new damage ranges to compensate for the missing resistances, stretching your remaining Pokémon to their absolute limits. If the next major boss brings a fast electric type, the absence of that sacrificed ground type pivot suddenly becomes a glaring, potentially run-ending vulnerability. The math gets tighter, and the margin for error vanishes completely. This constant state of resource exhaustion breeds a unique kind of paranoia in the veteran trainer. You approach every random encounter and every trainer battle with the terrifying knowledge that a single high-roll damage calculation could unravel the entire rebuilt strategy. The fear of permadeath is no longer just about losing a favorite companion. It is about losing the structural integrity of your entire game plan. The stakes are suffocating. You learn to navigate this paranoia by pre-calculating every conceivable disaster before stepping into the arena. If the opponent hits a critical strike, you already know exactly which secondary pivot you will sacrifice to regain control. Every move is layered with contingencies, ensuring that even the most brutal RNG spikes can be absorbed through deliberate, managed risk. You are no longer just playing the game. You are managing a complex system of probabilities. The true mastery of the Nuzlocke format lies in this cold, calculating detachment from the digital creatures you command. You must embrace the paradox of caring deeply enough to optimize their survival, while remaining ruthless enough to orchestrate their demise when the math demands it. The pivot sacrifice is the crucible where this mastery is forged, stripping away emotional bias and leaving only the stark reality of the numbers. When you finally stand before the Hall of Fame, the victory feels less like a joyful celebration and more like a grueling survival of a mathematical siege. The surviving Pokémon are not just champions. They are the beneficiaries of a meticulously planned trail of casualties. Every recorded victory is built on the foundation of those who absorb the lethal blows, the unsung heroes of the damage calculator. Whether you are facing Cynthia's terrifying dragon in Sinnoh or Blue's relentless psychic barrage in Kanto, the fundamental truth remains unchanged. The endgame will always force you into a corner, testing your willingness to make the ultimate trade. The checkmate state is an inevitable feature of the gauntlet, a final exam testing your grasp of speed tiers, AI behavior, and absolute damage ranges. There is no escaping the heavy burden of these choices, no magical strategy that guarantees a flawless, deathless victory against the hardest challenges. The run requires blood, and the only choice you have is deciding whose blood will buy the victory. This is the true weight of the Nuzlocke, a constant grinding pressure that transforms a children's game into a harrowing test of tactical resolve. In the end, the math behind the calculated pivot sacrifice is the definitive language of survival. It is a brutal, unforgiving equation that balances the scales of victory with the heavy cost of permanent loss. We do not rely on luck to see the credits roll. We rely on the undeniable certainty of the sacrifice, ensuring the legacy of the run is written by our own strategic hand.